User-friendly is still a very good term, and in addition, we say service in 3 clicks or less, so we're trying to make it simple and straightforward. E-government, as it's called, or electronic citizen service, is just another way, and actually a very efficient way, to deliver services and information to citizens.
A couple years ago, the Common Council passed a policy directing departments to make our databases of information available to the general public. So that is official city policy now, that whenever the city collects information in electronic format, that we should make that information available to the general public as well as to city departments.
Do you have a complaint about garbage or litter on private property? Questions regarding your towed vehicle, tow fees, or procedures? Need a replacement garbage cart? Applying for a building permit? You don't have to know which department handles your concern. Simply click on the Request Services or Report Problems pictures. Some issues can even be handled online.
The way the website has changed mainly in the past year is that we have made it more focused on citizens, on what citizens and businesses want to get, and trying to make it easy for them to get, rather than on what departments have to offer. So we've tried to make it more of an outside-in view rather than an inside-out view. Some of the new things we've added are online service requests. For example, now you can request a special garbage pickup or a brush pickup online, or if you need a garbage cart, if there's something wrong with it, or if a tree needs trimming in your neighborhood, you can request those things online rather than making a phone call or coming down to a government office. We also have, just very recently, parking services and information, which are a large, complex body of information, and that is now online on the web, so you can read through that and figure out what the regulations are for the street that you live on. For example, whether there are winter regulations, meaning you can't park there certain months of the year, whether there are alternate side parking regulations. And on that site you can now get an overnight parking permit online. So if you have guests in town, instead of calling the police or going to a police station, you can request permission online on the web. You can also now, using the web or using a telephone, pay ticket payments over an interactive voice response system, and soon we will accept parking ticket payments online over the web. Something we used recently in the November elections is an area that's called Where Do I Vote?, where a citizen can just put in their address and find out what polling place they would vote at, and also who all of their elected officials are for the various local, state, and federal districts. And finally, I would say there is, as far as online capabilities, there is the library has put up an online book renewal, so you can renew your library books online now.
While there are some interactive online procedures, there are many other forms and applications that can be downloaded and filled out, but must still be mailed in. That's an area where you can expect more changes in the future.
If you want to get a fence permit, you can now bring a fence permit up on your screen and print it to your printer, but you still have to fill it in with a pen or a pencil and mail it in. We're trying to make some of those things more automatic so that you could fill out a permit application on the screen, submit it interactively over the computer, and do your business more from start to finish over the web. In addition, we're looking at ways that you might be able to pay for things over the web.
Another new addition to the city website involves the Common Council, its legislative files, meeting records, how aldermen vote. It's the council's legislative tracking system called Legistar. And the city clerk says Milwaukee is a national leader in providing public access to such information via the internet.
This program makes available to them information about every piece of legislation that's being considered by the Milwaukee Common Council, and in fact every piece of legislation that's been considered since 1997. You can look up any ordinance, any resolution, any appointment file that's been considered by the Common Council. In addition to the text of the file itself, if there are associated documents, say a report from a city department, an opinion of the city attorney, a fiscal note in terms of what this file is going to cost, all of those documents are also available within the system and can be read by any user. It also shows the votes of the Common Council members, both in committee and at council, so you can check how your legislator voted on a particular item. It also contains the effective date, so when it took effect. So there's a whole combination of information, and you can search on this in a variety of different ways. You can search for a particular file. You can search for everything that's been introduced by your alderman on a particular topic. There's a number of different ways to go at the database, depending on your interest.
Legistar can be found at the Common Council link on the city webpage. There you'll also find a menu where you can access information on all city ordinances, links to individual aldermen, and maps of their districts. Legistar is just the latest enhancement of a database system designed for the city of Milwaukee.
A couple dozen cities are using it now. In fact, New York City just recently signed a contract to begin using this program, which we started here in Milwaukee. So we're very proud of that program. But this is a new element. This is a web front end to the program, to the database itself, so that by going in through the internet, through a web browser, you can then access the information contained in our database. So that's the new part of it.
As you know, City Channel 25 now televises live meetings of the Common Council and its committees. In the future, those meetings should also be available on the internet,
so that the person can watch it from a computer location through what's called web streaming. But also we plan to have an archive of past meetings on the internet so that you could review the testimony that was given last week at a committee meeting on a particular file.
In the meantime, make it a New Year's resolution to check Milwaukee.gov frequently. Use a library computer if you don't have one at home. You'll even find a section titled Enjoy Milwaukee.
The main issue is that we want to be focused on services to citizens and businesses. So what do citizens and businesses in the city of Milwaukee need? And if we think something would be of value, would be of interest, and bring some real value to them, we will provide a link to it.
Milwaukee.gov allows you to get important city information 24 hours a day. It adds to the efficiency of city government, and it will become even more interactive in the future. The Charles Allis Art Museum is housed in this Tudor-style mansion, completed in 1911. Built specifically as a combination home and museum, the local historic landmark houses a collection of art that spans 2,000 years.
The Allis name, of course, is very important in the history of Milwaukee. Charles Allis started the Allis Chalmers Manufacturing Company. Employed many people for many years in the city, helped build Milwaukee into one of the industrial giants in the Midwest. He and his wife built this home and furnished it with the intent purpose of it becoming a museum. They intended to gift it to the citizens of Milwaukee. Part of the will of Mrs. Allis was that none of the collection can be subtracted from or added to.
Charles Allis amassed the collection of fine art with his wife Sarah for over 40 years. The mansion, collections, and original furnishings were donated to the public in 1947.
This is the marble hallway. All the marble you see in the hallway was imported from Italy. The ceiling is Italian plaster. All the workforce was also imported to install it. In addition to all the marble that you see, we have the most Korean, Chinese, and Japanese pieces in this space. Of note are these netskis over here. Very beautiful, small, decorative pieces. Somewhat unique in that it's kind of a dying art form. We have two extraordinary paintings, two of the largest paintings in the collection. Right on either side of the entrance to the French Parlor, they are attributed to Lucas Krennic the Elder, and they are from the 1500s. He was contemporary of Martin Luther. They have the original wood frames and the gold wash. Extremely lucky to have them. I don't know how Mr. Allis came by them, but I'm sure most museums in the world would like to have them. So as a small museum, I think they may be two of our most prized pieces. There's a vase. It's Satsuma Pottery, and the piece you'll see has 1,000 hand-painted faces, all different. We have a magnifying glass that will help you to discover those faces. And there's a small bowl to its right that has 3,000 butterflies. A little harder to see the butterflies, but once again, an incredible piece. It's more of a museum space, the way we're displaying the works, but it would have been, you'd have really felt that it was lived in as you walked in here when the Allises lived here. You are now in what we call the French Parlor. It was their living space, and it's probably the most lavish room in the house. It's known for its French furniture, Louis XIV, 15th, and 16th pieces, the French Barbizon painters. This is a great example of they knew that they were going to will this home to the community because they have a built-in cabinet right here to display the Barye pieces, the beautiful bronzes. You are now in the library. You can see as the cabinets with some of Charles's original books and novels. This is a unique room. It's also called the American Room at times. All American paintings by the Hudson River School painters. Most well-known would be George Inness. So we have a few of his pieces, Ralph Blakelock. A lot of people walk into this room and are surprised that we have such famous painters and such wonderful works of theirs. In addition to that, you'll find the very unique wall covering. It's actually wallpaper made to resemble embossed Spanish leather, and it is Lincrusta Walton. It's wallpaper still made in London. We are now in the Allis's dining room. First thing to really point out that is oftentimes overlooked is, once again, we find the Lincrusta Walton wallpaper in this room. In addition to that, you'll notice there's a lot of silver in this room, silver-plated sconces, silver-plated chandelier, as opposed to the gold that you tend to find throughout the French parlor. And on the table, a very, very delicate piece of Venetian lace, very old, all handcrafted. And two pieces that are really extraordinary in this room are the large pottery piece over there with a bold blue crest. It's Satsuma Pottery once again, and we're told that it's one of the best preserved and largest pieces still existing in the world today. In addition to that, you'll find a piece right over here. It's a Japanese teakwood screen. It has the 12 calendar, the 12 months of the year, all represented by different flowers.
The Maplewood Butler's Pantry now leads to what was once the home's coach house and a new addition, completed in 1998. The museum director admits the Charles Allis Art Museum isn't as well known as others in the city.
That's our fault. That's not the people of Milwaukee's fault. We have to do a better job of reaching out and inviting people to come in our doors and experience what it is that we have to offer.
Milwaukee as it exists is a great place, say city officials. They say the new city zoning code recognizes that and legalizes our built environment. Neighborhoods such as Kinnickinnick Avenue. The new code encourages development that protects the diversity and unique character of these areas. This Southside neighborhood was the location as Mayor John Norquist signed the new zoning code into law. He said the huge document is one that usually only appeals to zoning attorneys.
But actually, this is one of the most important ordinances to pass the City Council in the last 100 years. This ordinance changes the zoning code and legalizes the beautiful, wonderful, exciting streets that we have in the older parts of Milwaukee. We're on KK Avenue right now, Kinnickinnick Avenue. Streets like the one in Mike D'Amato, who's the alderman from the east side. His district has streets like Brady Street and Downer and Oakland. What it does is it allows the zoning to be what we already have, which is stores with apartments above, the wonderful, exciting streets that we have. Before, these were non-conforming uses because of all the zoning overlays that had been put in place that really made it hard to keep these streets intact or to build new streets like it in the newer parts of the city. This code legalizes urban Milwaukee, and it's good because it's going to lead to more value added. The commercial streets will pick up a bigger share of the tax burden as they develop, like Brady Street in Mike's district is now worth a lot more money than it used to be because they've rediscovered the urban form there, and it really works to increase property values and increase economic activity.
When we first started this process and went through the mapping, there weren't a lot of aldermen, much less neighborhood groups, who knew that where they lived was not a legal place for them to live, that many of their single-family and two-family neighborhoods were multifamily zoned, and that any day someone could come along and make it a multifamily neighborhood. And this provides them with the protection they need and deserve. It provides them with the increased property values that'll make this city better as we go along. And as the mayor said again, the commercial strips of this city won't have to be torn down for big box retail. What we have is good. What we have we can continue to work and build on. And what we have will be here for years to come. And hopefully this is not only a code that will legalize what's here today, but it'll provide the map for the future.
The Zoning Code Task Force began meeting in 1998, made up of elected officials, city staff, business, and community representatives. The group held about 24 meetings and public hearings before submitting its recommendations.
Well, I think it'll make it easier for developers to understand the zoning code. We had a very complicated code with hundreds of different types of districts. Now, zoning controls height of buildings, use of the area, and the density of the area. And so we had 12 different residential type zonings, 3 different industrial, 18 different local business. And so it didn't make any sense because they were hard to understand. So we reduced the number of categories of districts.
Among the many other improvements to the zoning code, chapters have been reorganized, simplified, and reduced from 26 to 10. Zoning districts have been reduced from 125 to 43, with commercial districts down from 43 to 7, industrial districts from 11 to 6. Computerized zoning ordinance is available and searchable online.
It's user-friendly in every way. First, with Board of Zoning Appeals, there'll be a lot fewer cases that'll go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, meaning that for the common homeowner, they don't have to hire an attorney, they don't have to be a zoning lawyer to get through the code. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there are more graphs, there are more illustrations and tables, so that it's not just text. It's very simple to find out where you're going and what you want to do. And lastly, it's going to be on the computer, it'll be on the web. And so it'll be interactive. You can put words in to get to the certain areas of the code. You can put in whatever project you want to do and it'll get you to those sections. So it's going to be very convenient for people to use.
There were some areas that were duplexes, but one of the owners could have had the right to tear down 1 or 2 of them and build a big apartment building. And the other neighbors wouldn't have had a thing to say about it. Well, we've eliminated that doubt, that area, unless it goes through a specific rezoning with notice to everybody, that won't happen, that those areas are now zoned what they are. The second thing is, to the extent that we make it easier for developers to build projects quickly, that benefits residential taxpayers in that we increase the tax base.
The benefit of this code is that it's going to keep things relatively the same. The other thing you'll see is that I think you'll see more good quality development occur faster, and that's really the key to what the task force wanted to do.